We're glad you came back to Recapped Movie. Tonight, I'll show you a movie from 2021 called Night Teeth. It's an action, crime, and drama movie. Ahead are spoilers. Be careful and watch out. Most people don't know this, but vampires have lived with people since the beginning of time. Things were much easier in the past, when humans and vampires just hunted each other. But in modern Los Angeles, Boyle Heights has worked hard to keep itself safe and has been able to reach a peace agreement. Vampires have gone into hiding, and since most people now think they are made up, they have gotten rich and powerful. There is a group of people who will protect them as long as they follow 3 rules: don't tell anyone they exist, don't eat people who don't want to, and don't go into Boyle Heights without permission. One night, Mara is doing her laundry at the laundromat when her boyfriend Jay comes to pick her up so they can spend time together. As they leave together in his car, a mysterious car starts following them. Jay recognizes it and gets worried because they aren't supposed to be here. At the red light, he stops the car and pulls a gun out of the glove box. The other car stops next to him, and the driver, Victor, turns out to be a vampire. After staring at each other for a few seconds, Jay speeds up when the light turns green, parks next to an empty building, and tells Mara that he needs to tell his guys and that she should take the car. Jay kisses Mara and then goes into the building. When he gets there, he finds many of his crew members dead and hanging from the ceiling. When he hears someone breaking his car window, he has to come back out quickly, only to find that the car door has been ripped off and Mara has been taken. The next day, Jay's brother Benny falls asleep in class. When the teacher wakes him up, his classmates laugh at him. After class, he finishes some papers that he sells for money and then buys a piece of equipment for his mixer because he wants to make it as a musician. When he gets home, he says hello to his grandmother and then goes to his room to work on his music. But a loud voice from another room stops him. Benny goes to check and finds Jay arguing with someone on the phone about reliability and Mara. Jay hangs up just before he sees his brother, who asks him to hang out tonight. Jay says no because he'll be busy, so when he says that nobody will be watching his car for the night, Benny jumps at the chance because he needs the money, but Jay says no because he's a bad driver. After he accidentally snaps at him for asking too many questions about a mysterious knife he's taking out of a box and his plans for the day, Jay feels sorry for him and lets him cover his chauffeur job this one time. There are many rules he must follow. He must wear a suit, not scratch the car, not play the music too loudly, and pretend to be Jay since that's what the license and registration say. He also shows Benny that all he has to do to start the car is press a button on the keychain. Benny goes to Beverly Hills to pick up 2 women, Blaire and Zoe. They give him 5 addresses and tell him they have to go to every party tonight and be at the last place by morning, which is not up for discussion. On the way to the first party, the women make Benny play a game where they ask him awkward questions like, who would you rather sleep with, marry, or kill? Benny does his best to answer them awkwardly without looking like he's not a professional. When they get to their first stop, Benny sees that they have to scan a special button to get into the building. In the meantime, Jay is telling a friend that he feels bad about breaking the peace after 3 generations. His friend tells him that Victor broke the rules, so he has started a war with Boyle Heights. As the rest of their group arrives, they get their weapons ready and decide to find Victor and kill him before morning. Benny falls asleep in the car at the party. He wakes up when he hears a scream. He gets out of the car and kicks something on the ground. It's one of those special buttons, which he picks up and keeps to himself. A van in the distance is watching him with a crossbow ready, but he doesn't have time to notice it because the girls are getting out of the van and want to leave. Benny takes them to the second party, and this time he waits for them in the parking lot while he does some reading for college. He is suddenly distracted by Zoe's phone ringing. He wants to ignore it, but he can't when he sees a message from Victor asking about Jay and saying he can't wait to see the look on his face. Benny calls his brother because he is worried, but all he gets is an answering machine. He decides to find out more, so he takes Zoe's bag and looks inside. He finds a huge amount of bloody money bills. This scares him, especially when a police car parks nearby, so he sneaks out of the parking lot and into the hotel while trying to avoid the officer. When she sees him, the hotel receptionist is suspicious and tries to call security while telling him it's a members-only club. She changes her mind when she sees that he's holding the special button, though. After scanning it and hearing him ask about Zoe and Blaire, she tells him they are upstairs with the owners and takes him there by using a special key in the elevator to get to a secret floor. Benny goes to the end of the hallway and walks into a room. There, Zoe and Blaire are sucking the blood out of 2 men who are tied to special tables that spin. Zoe is suddenly on him, pushing him against the wall and laughing at how he is shaking. This is because she has superhuman speed. Then, Benny tells Zoe who he really is and says that he is covering for his brother, which Zoe already thought was the case. She wants to drink Benny, but Blaire stops her by saying that he could be useful and take them to Jay. One of the men wakes up and finds out that his sleeping partner is dead, which is against the rules. Blaire eats him and kills him to stop him from talking. Now that Benny is really scared, he runs back to the parking lot and tries to tell the police officer what he just saw. When he talks about the murders, the officer puts him in handcuffs and tries to push him into his trunk. When the girls come back and say Benny is theirs, the officer lets go of him. The officer knows about the Vampire Society and its rules, so the girls just tell him that Benny misunderstood what he saw. This doesn't satisfy the officer, though. He is still suspicious because he hasn't heard from any collectors tonight. The girls tell him that if he doesn't like it, he can call Victor before he leaves with Benny. Zoe takes his phone and breaks it when he tries to text someone for help. Moments later, he was driving the girls around again. When he stopped at a red light, Benny tried to get away, but Zoe used her speed to send him back to the car. While this is going on, Victor is at home drinking blood from a tap that is connected to several prisoners who are being held against their will in glass cages. After taking a selfie with them, Victor gets in his car and drives to his boss's house. There, he meets vampires Eva and Grace, who scold him for breaking the truce and call him reckless. They also say they have to kill him because of it. Victor says he's sick of being in the middle and feels like he has no freedom because of the truce. That's why he sent his girls to kill all the vampire bosses. He owns everything now, and Eva and Grace are just the next people on his list to kill. When they get back to the car, Blaire tells Benny what is going on. Zoe is Victor's girlfriend. She and Blaire run the money at the different business and blood clubs. Victor is sick of feeling like he doesn't have any real power, so they are now making their move. Most of the important parts of LA are run by 5 bosses, and they must all be killed in one night or they will be caught. Jay is the leader of a group that protects Boyle Heights and knows how to kill vampires. Victor tried to use him to kill the bosses, but Jay said no. The plan was for the girls to hire him and take him to Victor at the end of the night, but they got Benny instead. He won't tell Blaire where his brother is, so she stops asking and instead gives him a joint. Zoe is talking on the phone with Victor, who has just killed Eva and Grace. The plan is going well and they think they can pull it off, but Zoe has to tell Victor that they have the wrong driver. Victor tells her that he will take care of Jay and that she should keep Benny as insurance. Jay and his group go to see one of the bosses, Gio, because he made Victor and might know where he is. They find that the mansion is full of dead vampires and that only Gio is still alive. He tells Jay that Victor's plan was to do this and that his girls did it. He also tells Jay where they'll go next to try to bite him. Jay shoots back as a response. Benny and the girls go into a convenience store to get some snacks. While there, Benny tells Zoe that he likes Blaire. Zoe thinks the clerk is looking at them and talking on the phone while they're dancing, so she goes over and pushes him on the counter to make him say something. But it turns out he was just talking to his mom. After Blaire puts tape on his mouth, they leave to go to their next location, which is a very exclusive bar. When they get there, Benny tries to leave the girls behind, but they tell him that if he does anything funny, people will start dying. Since the girls are so important, they skip the line and head straight to the door. But as Benny is about to follow them inside, he sees that his classmates are at the front of the line and are now asking him to let them in. He tells them he can't, and they laugh at him again when they find out he works as a servant. Blaire saves him from being embarrassed by kissing him and telling them to find someone else to leech off of. She tells the security guard to send the students back to the end of the line, even though they try to stop him. They didn't know that Jay and his group were also paying off another guard to get in. Benny and the girls go into a secret room in the club, but they don't find the vampire boss there. Instead, a vampire hunter with a crossbow is waiting for them, because now that the truce is over, they can kill them all. Zoe tries to scare him, but he calls for his team, who are all armed, to come into the room. When he tells his men to kill the girls, Benny hits him in the hand with a bottle of champagne. This distracts him long enough for the vampires to kill the whole team while he looks at the cut on his hand. When they leave the club, Jay sees them and tries to follow them to save his brother, but another vampire stops him. Jay kills him with a special knife that burns his whole body, and when he leaves the club, a vampire hunter tries to get him to join them. He tells her that he only wants Victor and doesn't want to kill the whole race. As they leave in a car, a police officer stops them to tell Jay Victor that his brother says hi and is waiting for him. Benny gets the girls away from the hunters while dodging their crossbow shots. He takes them to his grandmother's house, where she attacks them with a bat because she thinks they are robbers. When she sees that Benny's hand is hurt, she drags him to the kitchen to stitch it up and put a bandage on it. Blaire decides to help them with this. Benny gets one of Jay's knives from the box he saw earlier, then goes to his room to find Blaire listening to his music, which she really likes, while Zoe goes to the bathroom to call Victor and tell him how things are going. Benny tells her about his dream of becoming famous with his work, and Blaire tells him about how she met Zoe in the 1970s. Zoe was the person who changed Blaire's life and gave her a new start. Blaire wants to leave Benny behind now that they become friends, but Zoe won't let her. Benny wants to go with them anyway, so it doesn't matter. Jay and Victor meet at a restaurant that is all by itself. After some talk about the broken truce, Jay shoots Victor in the head. This doesn't kill him, though, because Victor soon admits that he killed Mara and the hole closes on its own. Benny and the girls go to the last place on the map, where they meet Rocco, the last boss. He lets them in and, after making fun of Benny, says that they didn't call and just showed up. Zoe pretends to be interested in seducing him to get his attention away from Blaire and Benny. Blaire and Benny then leave them alone and go sit by the pool. After another emotional talk, they start kissing, but Blaire stops them to tell Victor that Jay is her boyfriend. Zoe tries to stab Rocco with a knife inside the building, but Rocco already knows what they're there for and calls for help. While the girls are fighting, Benny goes outside to start the car and runs over a vampire hunter who was standing in the middle of the road. After fighting off more hunters who were waiting for them in the street, Blaire and a hurt Zoe get in the car. Zoe needs blood to get better, and the sun is almost up, so Benny rushes to get them to their last destination, which is Victor's house. Benny doesn't want to leave because he's worried about his brother, so he sneaks in after Blaire and Zoe are out of sight. He goes into the house with a bat and finds the prisoners being drained of their blood. Jay is one of them. When he's about to hit the glass with the bat, Victor finds him and takes him upstairs, where Zoe is getting a blood transfusion. Benny tries to make a deal with them. He wants them to take him and let Jay go. Victor answers by talking to himself, so Benny thinks he's not paying attention and tries to kill him with the special knife. Victor is too fast for him, though, and stops him without any trouble. He wants to kill Benny, but Blaire stops him by saying that he just wants to leave. Zoe is upset about this because she thought they would always be in this together. During their fight, she stabs Blaire in the stomach. Benny uses his keychain to turn on the car at that moment. Since he had put a rock on the gas pedal, the car moves forward and crashes into the window, letting the sun in and burning Zoe to ashes. Benny grabs her knife before he sees Jay in chains walk into the room. Victor has set up a trap to get him to walk into the shadows so that he can bite him. Blaire, who is still alive, jumps on him and stabs him several times, but he easily pushes her off right before Jay jumps on him, pushing Victor into the sunlight and killing him. When Blaire goes to check on Benny, she realizes he won't make it. So, she feeds him her own blood and turns him into a vampire. A few days later, Jay and Benny have dinner together after Jay has been to Maria's memorial. Benny says he won't forget who he should fight for if chaos breaks out in the city. He then gives Jay a bag full of money and leaves. He tries to study in the library, but the sound of a woman's heartbeat keeps pulling his attention away. He leaves the building, only to run into some of his classmates outside. They try to find him because he hasn't been seen for a while, but he says he's fine and leaves them speechless when Blaire pulls up in a fancy car.